Ricky Nooner. I have been taking this course throughout the semester, and I have chosen to do Lev's. Terrible with names, by the way, when it comes to this stuff. Smenovich Vygotsky. I chose Mr. Vygotsky because of all the ones that we had on the list. I knew about him the least, and now I kind of know why I knew about him the least. Up until, of course, we started reading and studying about it, and so. Um, One of the things about Mr. Vygotsky that I didn't realize met the eye until I started really paying attention, started looking at my sources, was how big of an impact he put on psychology. And it wasn't just psychology he put impact on. He put an impact on a lot of things. Um, and so I'm actually going to share this with you today. The biggest things that with my research that really came up was the zone of proximal development, which I've heard of before. I took this course when I took general psychology in college. I also, whenever I was in college, I also had a lot of other things that I did in college, along with psychology. So I heard about um, that quite a bit. I just don't remember Vygotsky near as much as I did the other ones, like the Karl Marx's, the John Piaget's, uh, things of that nature. So these are the ones that we're going to look at today: the more knowledgeable other and the socio-cultural theory. See if we get this date. So, in the birth and childhood, he was born in Orcha Belarus, which is just right outside of Russia. It's actually very, very close to the Russian border. I believe at one time it was part of the Western Russian Empire. I believe at one point it was, which eventually, of course, that was right before it became what we call the Soviet Union times. His father was Shimska Vygotsky. He was a banker. His mother was Cecilia Mosivia Vygodskaya. She was actually, from the research that I looked at, was supposed to be a teacher, and she ended up staying at home. She ended up being a stay-at-home mom instead. She wanted to focus on the family, and that which wasn't a bad thing. He also had seven siblings. He grew up in Gomel, which, of course, if you look at the map, is very far south. Um, of Belarus. As far as his education goes, he was homeschooled, and I believe my research, I can't remember my research of the last 2 years or 3 years, 4 years, something right around there. He eventually went to a Jewish private school. Even though he was a Jewish heritage, they were not very religious, according to my research. And so, but that's what he ended up doing as far as private education goes. And from my research, he was very, very, very intelligent. Um, his wife was in Zenaida. I'm terrible with names. Vygotsky, his children was Asia and Gita. Gita was actually one of the ones in my research who would go on. It seemed like she would go on and really tell a lot about her father, because he died at such a young age, which we will get to here in a little bit. Um, it was she actually was able to push out what she knew of him in a very short little of time, because I believe she was only 9 whenever he passed away. And so the fact that she was able to have such a big impact, and if I and I, there was one source that I didn't put this source in, but this is just something that I like to point out is apparently she was very, very well known and very well good person, because there was a ton of tributes that I saw out there on the internet for all the articles and stuff like that about her. So apparently she did something very, very well. He did enroll after he finished high school. He had going in the University of Moscow. He was in 1913. He was going to study medicine. Eventually, he switched to law. And then, of course, studies outside, of course, psychology, philosophy, sociology, linguistics. So yeah, he was a jack of all trades when it came to his mindset. He was a very, very intelligent human being. 1917, his education was disrupted for a little bit with the Bolshevik Revolution began. And of course, this is right around the time that eventually led to what we call the development of the Soviet Union, which of course was a Russia type deal. Of course, during that time, he was a teacher in his hometown of Gomel. He moved back to Gomel and was able, and then he, of course, he began to research, and he was also ready to get his doctorate and things of that nature. 1924, he did make a presentation on the lexicological and physiological investigation to our Russian Psychoneurological Congress, which happened to be a very, very big deal back in that day. And of course, after this was also what led him to being a research fellow at the Institute of the Experimental Psychology in Moscow. Very, very big deal. And something I found in my research. There was something I wanted to read out, just from this work. This is just from just from a source that I read that was part of a chapter of something that he read, that actually had to deal with the methods of the reflexological and psychological investigation. Right here it says, classical reflexology sticks to its elaboration of the universal scientific principle. The law of Darwin's significance reduces everything to a common denominator. And precisely because this principle is too all-too-embracing universal, does not yield a direct scientific means for the study of particular and individual forms. After all, it is for concrete science of human behavior, it's impossible to confine itself to the principle for concrete physics, to confine itself to the principle of gravity. We need scales, we need our instruments and methods in order to identify concrete material limited terrestrial world on the basis of general principle. It is the same in reflexology. Everything incites the science of human behavior to transcend the boundaries of classic experiments and search other means of knowledge. So even though back in this day, even though I wish he could have lived to seen the technology that we had, the studies that we're able to do today, and the simple fact is that he was so intelligent, just such a young, even at such the early days, prehistoric times of when technology was invented. I just wish he would have been able to see this type of stuff. This is great work here. I love reading this type of stuff from him. He did a very, very good job. And it's just a shame that a lot of his works didn't get published till after his death, which we will also get to here in a little bit. That was one of the deal. He did earn his doctorate, and in 1925, the thesis was titled "The Psychology of Art." Made a graph there. That's okay. However, it was not published till 1960, which most of his works were published through other type of things, through other authors and everything like that wanted to sort of include on some of the things that he did. Some of the major theories that he had: the zone of proximal development, as you can see the chart down there, area of knowledge beyond what an individual currently has, but is capable of learning. Can be learned as long as a child is surrounded by those who can help teach and the child gain knowledge. And then, of course, scaffolding sort of comes along with this. It actually goes on with a lot of the things, and it actually helping a learner move from current skill to independent capability. So basically, what I get out of this is that there are things, that are not necessarily beyond our reach by ourselves, but like if we have some sort of guidance to guide us through, um, we can learn this. And once we get to a certain spot, we can actually get developed to learn on our own, which I truly strongly agree with Vygotsky here. This is a very, very good theory of his. And this was way back in the early 1900s. Imagine today, I'm just telling y'all, imagine today, this would be beautiful. This is beautiful work here. The more knowledgeable other person who has greater knowledge and skills other than the learner, regardless of age and experience. And one of the things that I love about this is that, this is so true because if you look even today at technology, there are things that my daughter, of course, I involved my daughter in one of my projects, the last project that we did, which she was doing the Rubik's Cube. There are certain things that even kids can do with something very, very small, something very, very simple, and be able to teach me or teach someone older than them what they had learned. That's amazing in itself. And so the fact is that, this is something that we can actually put to the test, and we have very, very good knowledge of putting to the test. Right here, the biggest need is social interaction among peers. Pairing students with lower grades and those who are higher grades. I put that just sort of as an example in there because there are sometimes, even with me as an educator, I give them the material and things of that nature. They're able to learn it from me, but sometimes it takes someone else on their level to also be able to help them understand. And then, of course, there's the social cultural theory, human development through social interactions. And this is huge because we do gain a lot more development being socially interactive with other humans other than just being by ourselves and being a loner. And of course, he was also one that believed that language, excuse me, he also believed that language and child memory, boosting their learning, things of that nature, was able to help this kind of theory. Some of his influencers: Baruch Spinoza, which I have actually heard of him. Um, Topic consciousness and the role of thought. All these people were able to give some kind of an influence through him. Karl Marx, of course, Karl Marx is a very, very big, well-known name. Sigmund Freud as well with child development. Child development was huge, and yeah, huge as far as the psychology world goes. Ivan Pavlov, Symbols in the Meaning of the Mind. Um, these are just a few that he had influence, but I don't think anyone had more influence than Jean Piaget, because it seemed like he gets compared more with Jean Piaget than he does any of them. And of course, you see here, cultural differences matter. Development through social interaction and knowledge of others, and language plays a big role. And then you look at someone like Piaget, where he broke it down into stages. Not necessarily saying that I disagree with Piaget, but what I'm saying is I think I relate a little bit more to Vygotsky here, because I feel like your surroundings mean more than you just being developed at a certain stages in life. Because there are some stages of Piaget that you're not able, that some of them are not able to hit. And of course, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis, and that's what eventually killed him. And he was able to overcome it. He was able to go even further, start studies of higher cognitive functions, which you can see here: the cultural historical approach, developmental approach, instrumental approach. And the sad part is he just was not able to finish it off because of his death. And then of course his daughter, I'm sorry, would go on to tell. And I like this quote here: the true direction and development of thinking is not the individual to the social, but from the social to the individual. Absolutely perfect. I absolutely love this quote. This is something that I would use. Um, and then, of course, we could use this for lesson planning, cooperative learning, of course, scaffolding. Of course, we give them something, they're able to learn on their own. Eventually, we give them the materials, they're able to learn on their own. And then, of course, according to the textbook, um, the zone of proximal development is could be something to help with teacher education, as well as getting their certification and everything like that. Here are all 10 of my references, and I hope I did not go over the time, because that was, I think I talked for a little bit longer than I hoped. Um, and thank you for listening. And yeah, thank you for listening.